AEW Full Gear 2021 is in the books, and goddamn, that was another phenomenal, terrific pay-per-view effort by AEW tonight. Fantastic show. My God, from top to bottom, I'd have easily paid $51 for this thing. Worth every penny. It looked great on paper. A lot of us had high expectations, but sometimes, our expectations are a little bit too high. But I think for the most part, they came through on almost every match here, came through to such a degree that I think they came through too much. The show started so hot, and the first 90 minutes was probably the hottest hour and a half start to a pay-per-view in recent memory, that the fans, not only in the arena, but maybe even some of us at home, were a little bit burnt out. And there was a couple of matches in there that maybe would have been better served to be on a Dynamite or a Rampage. So, in my opinion, there's worse problems to have than AEW almost giving us too much great shit. And it made a couple of what I thought would be otherwise meaningful matches if they were on TV, more of, I dare to even say bathroom break matches or a breather, maybe a buffer type of thing, when they should have had a lot more focus and attention, but they were almost lost in the whirlwind of awesomeness that was taking place on the show up until that point, and all the stuff we still had yet to come. This was a 9-match card, 10 if you include the pre-show, and they hit us with a lot of great stuff here, and it started out hot, and it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. So I think, they hit a couple of stalls there with a couple of matches, but it wasn't even really their fault. Normally the matches were just fine on their own, but, on the same card with everything else that was going on, maybe these are some pacing things that they're going to learn, and it might even be one very, very slight downfall to having so few pay-per-views in a year. What do they do, like 4? So, the one downfall to that might be that they try to cram too much shit into one show, and maybe they gave us too much, threw too much at us. I think that was kind of a common opinion tonight, but in my mind, if that's the type of problems we have, I think we're doing okay as wrestling fans, at least on the AEW side of things. There was a lot here that I thought was very good. They did have a couple of hiccups, like I said, a couple of botches here, including one really ugly one in the Inner Circle and America's Top Team match. I really would like, if we could, to try to keep MMA fighters out of the ring as much as possible, unless they have a lot of training, because Junior Dos Santos missed a big spot. Jericho called his name out in front of the entire arena about as loud as he could, and stood there waiting to take a shot on a lion salt, stood there way too long, looked like shit, and kind of jumbled up the finish a little bit. But we had an appearance from Baron von Raschke. Jericho won with the frog splash as a tribute to Eddie Guerrero, so it made up for it, but there were little instances like that. So we're not going to go too crazy sucking the dick of AEW here tonight, but I think it's pretty safe to say that most of us really, really enjoyed the show. I know I did. I am definitely giving it an A, and I felt that way all day. I even put this on Twitter earlier, that it feels good to be excited about a wrestling pay-per-view, you know what I mean? Instead of having like what I consider to be like justifiable pessimism towards WWE's product, because how many times they can fuck shit up and just do the wrong thing, or just book shit completely ass backwards, or just overall disappoint us as fans. Wrestlers always, leave their blood, sweat, and tears in the ring and always do a great job, but in terms of, kind of how it's presented, a lot of times we are disappointed most of the time, and we go into pay-per-views expecting to be disappointed. It's nice to have the opposite effect, and to have another wrestling promotion out there that we can watch and actually get excited about. AEW still got a lot of room to grow. They're only 2 years old, so there's many more things they can do in the future, but it's nice, at least for right now, to see these pay-per-views and know we're going to get, a pretty damn action-packed card, so much so that it might even be too action-packed. So, props to everybody involved in AEW. I think they hit another home run here tonight. All Out was another phenomenal show back in September, and many people considered that to be pay-per-view of the year. Maybe people feel like Full Gear has beaten it. I don't know if I can make that comparison unless I think about it. I just thought tonight's show was great. Loved it. And we're going to get into all of it here. I want to go over to the chat, say hello to everybody that was waiting for me. Appreciate it. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you are not yet a subscriber. And make sure you're here with us after every pay-per-view to give them reviews. We're here on Wednesdays for Dynamite Watch-alongs, all sorts of great stuff, so please do that. I want to say hello to Victor Colon and FRGN, Alex Bryant, Divine Rick's in the house, Jonathan's here, Zelius, Alex. Thank you, Divine Ricks, for that $5 drop in the Super Chat. As expected, lots of Eddie Guerrero vibes on this pay-per-view. My favorite match tonight was MJF versus Darby. I rate this match, or this pay-per-view, 9 out of 10. That's a pretty solid rating. You know, if I'm not 9 out of 10, I might go 8.5 out of 10 just to not be too crazy up their ass and be a little bit more realistic. But overall, there was very few moments on this pay-per-view where I was not enjoying myself. So 9 out of 10 is fair. I think that in terms of what AEW, by the way, for those of you curious about the format here on these pay-per-view reviews, we shoot the shit for a while first. We talk a lot about little bits in the bits and points in the pay-per-view and stuff like that, and then we will start running through this stuff match by match. But right now, we're just hanging out. And in terms of the Eddie Guerrero stuff, of course, today is the 16-year anniversary of the death of Eddie Guerrero, and Full Gear was in Minneapolis tonight, the city of Eddie Guerrero's death. As a matter of fact, there probably were plenty of wrestlers tonight and many throughout the years that have stayed in the hotel that Eddie died in. So it's sad. You always think about this day, but since they were in Minneapolis tonight for a pay-per-view, I was really hoping we would get Eddie Guerrero tributes. I was thinking something on air like a video package, but I much preferred what they did. There was little in-ring Eddie Guerrero tributes sprinkled throughout the whole show. Multiple frog splashes, multiple Three Amigos. Some of these moves even won matches for, the respective guys. And I thought that was really touching. Excuse me as I burp up my Stella. I thought that was really touching. I mean, everybody had some sort of a nod in their match, heels and baby faces, to Eddie Guerrero. And I think that's about as special a tribute as you can give. And Vicky Guerrero was actually out kind of in the opener in the women's match during the buy-in. So her being at ringside, Nyla Rose hit a frog splash from the top rope, so it was cool to see her do that. And lots of Eddie chants from the fans. So between the wrestlers doing their stuff in the ring and the fans really getting the Eddie chants going from time to time, it was a more beautiful tribute than anything I think they could have produced, video-wise. That to me was much more meaningful, and that's something that will live on forever because, if you would have done a video tribute, that can always be forgotten, edited out, left out. Eddie's almost like spirit embodied the pay-per-view, and that's what I kind of liked about the vibe and what the fans did and the wrestlers did. So that was awesome, and just loved the fact that kind of Eddie was hanging over the night. So it made the whole night kind of more extra special, and a lot of people dedicated their stuff to Eddie tonight. So all in all, just good to be a wrestling fan sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not all horrible. Sometimes it can be quite fucking awesome. And tonight was just that. So, Divine, I agree with you on the Eddie stuff, and I don't disagree with you on your grade. Good to see Kyle Ratnick. Michael Cuomo, good to see you, my friend. I am so sorry that I actually sent you a message on Patreon. I missed your very generous super chat the other day during the live stream. Just flat out missed it, and appreciate what you said, talking about Jon Moxley's situation, maybe inspiring you to reevaluate your own, alcohol consumption and intake and behavior and stuff like that. Thank you for sharing that with us, and sorry that I missed that the other night, and glad that you are here. No, Laura, good to see you. We got Alan, we got Ramit HDK, Angie in the house, Victor, Deshaun, right on, Monkey Wrench Party. Marcus the Entertainer, thank you for the $2 as I scroll away to make sure I didn't miss one. Hangman returning home as champion on Wednesday. Where's he from and where's Dynamite on Wednesday? I don't know either, I'm sad to say. We're going to be talking a lot about Hangman here tonight as well. Good to see him get strapped up, as should have been the case. There was no reason not to put the title on him. I was adamant about that yesterday in the predictions, and I think it would have been a big disappointment if they wouldn't have pulled the trigger on him tonight and upset a lot of fans. I think the right move was made, nothing to overshadow it. We're now on the other side of the Punk and Danielson debut. No reason to bring in Bray Wyatt tonight and gum up the works here. You got plenty of time to bring him back. Find a night on pay-per-view, a night that can be for Hangman, and they were able to find that. Everything worked out perfectly. Here we thought this match was going to be at All Out, and they were still able to not only stretch it out, but keep it interesting to where when they picked it back up after the bombshell news of Punk and Bryan signing and showing up there and shit, after all of that dust settles, they're able to pick back up Hangman and Omega and pay off that whole two-year ordeal. I think they did a great job at that. They managed a lot of different things and in a company, Tony Khan, who's not very experienced in doing this, and it would be really easy to make a wrong move to where in hindsight you really regret it type of thing. Excuse me. So I thought the fact that they were able to have this match here at Full Gear and make it about Paige with nothing overshadowing it, excellent move. If you would have done it at All Out, if you would have done it in Arthur Ashe, there would have been other things that might have, maybe taken away from the moment of Hangman getting this moment. So doing it here, I thought it all worked out marvelously, and the right decision was made. In terms of my predictions, I think I went 8-2. There's 2 matches I missed. One was Danielson and Miro. And a lot of people picked Danielson. I was one of the very few to pick Miro. I'm just thinking in very basic wrestling terms of, okay, they're probably going to put the belt on Hangman. He's a super over babyface. I don't know if I want Hangman Page's first opponent to be against a babyface that's as popular as him, maybe even more popular. I think Hangman Page and Daniel Bryan are equals in terms of fan love, but it's close. And it's just like, I don't know if I would do that. But then when you take a step back and look at it, with Danielson now winning, yeah, maybe I would have assumed a heel would be better, but wouldn't even be almost even better than that if Hangman is actually able to have a babyface match with Bryan Danielson and Danielson puts him over. You got to make a star, right? Everybody says AEW doesn't make stars and shit like that. What do you call this? This is the exact way to do it. And I think Danielson would be more than happy to put over Hangman Page because he's one of their names of the future. He's going to be one of the guys. He's going to be like the Randy Orton of AEW. I think that's a perfect comparison. That's what I would compare Hangman Page to, is somebody like Randy Orton. Not at the top, but one of the top guys and one of the guys that builds a really deep legacy in the promotion. And this is the beginning of that. And if he is able, in his very first title defense, to have a clean victory under his belt against arguably the best wrestler in the world, that is a star-making match potential victory when he does that. So I've completely changed my tune on this idea. Now I'm all about a Hangman Page and Danielson match, provided that Danielson puts him over and Hangman Page wins squeaky fucking clean with a buckshot lariat right in the middle. That's what I want. Put it on Dynamite near the end of the year, maybe a holiday match. I mean, usually when they have these type of, at least with the casino stuff, the title matches usually take place pretty quickly. So I feel like this will happen kind of quick, but I'd at least save it for some sort of special Dynamite. Some Santa is Coming Dynamite or some shit in December. I don't know. Thanksgiving show. I don't know. Something like that, where you set up this big match and you put Page over. I mean, he's not going to drop the title in his first title defense, is he? Give him a little bit of a run. I think the guy that needs to take, we talked about this in the predictions, I think the guy that needs to take the title from Hangman Page is MJF. I think he needs to be the heel to do it. So that's where I'd go. I'd go from Kenny to Hangman to MJF. And from there, MJF can hit Punk, or something, and we'd get that promo battle. So something like that would be fun down the line. Either way, it's going to be a really, really fun 2022. I'm looking forward to it. Let me keep knocking out a couple more of these super chats, and then we will start rolling through the results one at a time here. Let me go back up so I don't miss anybody this time. Spectra, thank you very much, man. Good to see you. Welcome back. Thank you for the 5. Not often that Bryan Danielson is in 3 worst matches of the show, but it was just an awesome show. Could have done without the Jericho match. Yeah, me too. I think the Cody and Pac and Andrade and Black match was a little weak. The match itself was fine, but like I said earlier, surrounded by everything else, felt like something was better served to be the main event of a Dynamite instead of in the middle of the show. Some people would have liked another women's match, maybe, but I also think you could have just done no match and just made 8 matches on this card. But if you did a women's match, what would you do? And I think we'll start seeing more multiple women's matches when they introduce that secondary title, because even in WWE, how many pay-per-views do we get where there's a women's match that's not a title match? It's usually only title matches if I'm right. So, or if I'm remembering correctly. So I don't know what you would have added there, but it was almost like a little bit too much. So I kind of do agree with you there, is when you have a great match that you have to, something has to be the worst match on the show. And sometimes the show is so good that a really good match is actually the worst match on the show. It does happen. I'm not sure if I'd agree on Danielson and Miro is the worst, though. I'm probably going to go top team and Inner Circle in terms of the worst. Monique, thank you so much for the $10 Canadian, I believe. Eddie was one of my faves. I remember the day I heard he passed. I was I'm assuming, at the Monday Night Raw tribute show. Wow, I was 12 and cried myself to sleep that night. He was one of the best ever. The tribute show was probably pretty interesting to attend live. Wow. Yeah, I've told the story many times about how I heard, as a matter of fact, after Eddie passed, I took a little brief hiatus. I completely stopped watching other than the pay-per-view. So I watched Survivor Series, I watched Rumble, and then I watched Mania 22 when they put Eddie in the Hall of Fame and all of that. But in terms of the TV and following it on the internet, reading the wrestling news, I completely checked out. That was one more death that I just was not prepared to handle, getting a little tired of it, and I was starting to get pissed off, kind of, because by that point it was just like every 3 days somebody's dropping dead in their 40s, and it was getting a little bit I don't want to say annoying, but it was starting to break my heart a little bit. I just wanted to get away from it. So it took a while for it to pull me back in. And then, just a short time later, we'd be hit in the face with the Benoit tragedies. So it's just one horrible tragedy after another for us wrestling fans. And Eddie, I think, is one of the saddest. And I know he's one of the most beloved in terms of I've talked about this before, in terms of the generation below me. The fans one generation younger than me, Eddie seems to be their guy. With me, it was more Owen. The Owen death, was kind of floats over my head a little bit and kind of haunts me a little bit. And I think Eddie has that effect on a lot of fans, that came up, maybe a few years later. So Eddie was important. That is no doubt. Victor Colon, hello. Good to see you. Zelius Ward, thank you for the $5. Are the Bucks turning face after that main event finish? Glad you mentioned that. I'd be surprised, since they were getting booed as faces and they are solid heels right now. At first, I got a little bit confused what was going on at the end of that main event when the Bucks were out there, and I think Matt gave Hangman a little bit of a look, like a nod, and I'm like, oh, Jesus. I'm like, Hangman's not turning heel and going to be the new leader of the Elite or something, but I think what it was is they were paying off the story from like a year ago when they wouldn't be in his corner or whatever. So it was almost like they were like, we're not going to get in the way of this. Let him go out there. Obviously, he's gotten this man beaten and, take him out. So that's going to, like I said, in the predictions and stuff, that's just adds so much now story with the Elite and what the hell's going on there. And Adam Page was still able to have his big celebration. The Dark Order coming out, hugging him, all that was cool. But I did have to kind of think about that one for a second, based on what we saw from the Bucks, and if it is maybe the beginning of a face turn or not. I don't know. So y'all can tell me. You guys are better at this stuff than me. Divine Ricks, thanks again for 5 more. I hope the Punk and Kingston feud continues after this pay-per-view. I think it will. I think the handshake at the end, or the lack of handshake, I should say, at the end, signified that. And that's like what I said in the predictions, that I think you can go 3 on this. You can do 3 matches here. Punk is going to win the first one, like I said yesterday. Then you do some gimmick match on TV, main event of Dynamite in 2 weeks or some shit, some, ye old chuckle cheezel bum street fight or something, some crazy fight, crazy match, and you give Eddie Kingston the win. He beats CM Punk, pins him right in the ring or something. It's probably a gimmick match, maybe not just straight one-on-one, maybe something else is going on, and you give Eddie the victory. Then you do the blow-off, and Punk wins the blow-off, and then you might get the payoff with the handshake, or you might not. So we'll see. But I think you can go 3 matches, and with Eddie Kingston kind of walking away from the handshake from Punk, makes me think that we're definitely getting another one. So hells yes. And Marcus, 2 more from you. Thank you, man. I think Miro is still healing and came back early. Yeah, he was a bit taped up and seemed a bit slow. I just assumed he was going to win because Hangman would have to face a heel, because I'm thinking like it's 1973. But no, Bryan Danielson won. I couldn't be happier. And I guess he kind of got that monkey off his back too. He kind of said in the hype package that he has never defeated Miro before. So good for him. He made it happen. All right, I think that caught up all of those. We can start talking about the pay-per-view. Keep thumbs up smashing for me. I'd appreciate it. And we'll start getting into the matches here and start with the buy-in. So before they were running the buy-in, hour before the show, running a bunch of hype packages and shit, they end up going into the ring with Tony Schiavone, who he introduces Dante Martin. I guess Minneapolis is where Dante lives, or that's his hometown or whatnot. So crowd welcomes him nicely. They talk a little bit about Lio Rush's grandmother who had passed away and that sort of thing. The Acclaimed show up. Max Caster starts spitting out his bars, and he says something to the effect of Lio Rush can't handle this environment. He's about to go into his 15th retirement, something like that. Pretty funny line. Went on to shit on Minneapolis, of course, as heels tend to do. Anthony Bowens then asks Dante to join the Acclaimed, and he basically says, no way, F you, and attacks them both. So a little segment in the ring there for the hometown boy. Seems like everybody's clamoring for Dante's attention because he's just a cool, young, athletic kid. So I guess that's his story. We do get that advertised match. It was a tag involving the women, Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose, facing Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. Really good match. Wasn't paying too much attention because I was kind of getting set up for my night of wrestling. But Nyla Rose did wind up hitting a frog splash, I believe, on Hikaru Shida, which was really awesome. And the fans were chanting Eddie. Plus, Vicky Guerrero was at ringside. Very nice. Warmed my heart right off the bat. But in the end, Shida is able to survive that, and she winds up like kind of folding up Nyla Rose for a quick pin, gets the win. Baby faces kick off the show right and get the crowd warmed up in a pretty good way before we head off to the main card. Now, in my predictions yesterday, I had speculated that that crazy Falls Count Anywhere match with Jurassic and Christian against the Bucks and Cole might kick things off because it's just going to be bonkers and they're going to be all over the place, and it would be an excellent way, I think, to rile up the crowd or get the crowd going because there's just going to be all sorts of stuff going on at the same time. Plus, Kenny is in the main event, and I knew we would see the Bucks in some form later on, so I figured they would want to get their shit out of the way early, and that's the match I thought they would start things with. I did not expect it to be MJF and Darby Allin. I was shocked. I was like, I'm really surprised they went with that. I wasn't upset, don't care, but I was just like, I'm not sure if I would have made that decision. Let's see how this goes. Why do I even question these guys, man? Holy shit, what an amazing match. They couldn't have come through better. AEW takes a 25-year-old and a 28-year-old and just sticks them out there in the opening match in front of a sold-out pay-per-view crowd in a major venue in a major market and just says, show us what you got. And they just tore the house down. Fucking amazing match. And when you think about it, I love the fact that, like, non-former WWE talents bookended the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? You had Darby and MJF kicking things off, Hangman and Omega closing it. You know what I mean? I mean, they do have their own guys. This ridiculous bullshit narrative that the haters use as ammunition in their stupid war that says AEW is nothing but WWE cast-offs can't be further from the truth, which is proven. And now they've made another guy here in Hangman Page that hopefully is going to have, like I said, a Randy Orton-like legacy in AEW. You know, tonight could be the genesis of that. So anyway, MJF and Darby Allin kick things off. This has been a pretty good little feud here because these guys are two of the pillars of AEW, two of the four pillars. I believe it's MJF, Darby, Sammy, and another one. I forgot who the other one is. So this has always been a fun match because of a fun feud here because of the differences between them, and the mic stuff has been good. And, you know, I figured the match was going to be more of a fight, you know, maybe more of a street fight type vibe than an actual really good professional wrestling match, which is what it turned out to be. They had a special entrance here for Darby Allin, I guess reenacting the car crash that claimed the life of his uncle. I didn't even know about that, or if I did, I forgot. And he crashes this, this Crown Vic in the woods, and then he lights it on fire, and then he comes out to the ring, and that was kind of his big entrance. It was cool. Every time I see Darby Allin do that missile suicide dive, I cannot believe my eyes. Nobody delivers it like that. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how Darby is going to continue to do that for an extended period of time in his career. The way he shoots through those ropes like that with such velocity, it blows my mind. He also missed a coffin drop from the top rope onto the apron. Ouch. Later on, MJF tombstone to Darby on the apron, which looked fantastic. Didn't look dangerous, but still looked sick at the same time. Darby was protected, but by one hair. I mean, he was so close to not being protected. It was about as perfect as you can nail a tombstone. It's the exact opposite of Hogan and Undertaker at Survivor Series 91. The exact opposite of that. Great looking shit. Code Red near fall near the end got great applause from the audience. Lots of this is awesome chants. Everybody on Twitter, I'm sure everybody at home, was really giving this match high praise. I just didn't even think, I knew this match was going to be good and fun and everything, But putting it in like this position to open up a pay-per-view like this in front of a hot crowd, these are two relatively young guys who don't have this type of exposure, pay-per-view exposure experience to be put in this position and being asked to come through. And not only do they deliver, they over-deliver. And, both guys deserve respect for that. Now, I was expecting to see Wardlow out there with MJF. It took a while for him to show up. Wardlow and Spears both showed up on the ramp. Sting came out to stop him with a baseball bat and a chair of his own. He fights them off, leaving MJF to contend with Darby on his own. So MJF, I think he introduces the skateboard into the match, and he really wants, I think he almost gives it to MJF, or gives it to Darby. He wants Darby to use it so Darby can get disqualified and he can win the match, and Darby refuses to do it, so the referee takes away the skateboard from Darby, and of course he has to turn his back to do that. MJF goes into the trunks, pulls out the diamond ring, blasts poor Darby in the face with that. Darby goes down, MJF covers him for the win, and wins. I predicted MJF to win. I knew he was going to do shenanigans, and I knew it was going to take some help. I thought Wardlow would play into this. I still think at some point they're going to have to go with the Wardlow-MJF split, or they're just going to wait on that forever, maybe until MJF wins the title. That could happen later on. MJF's going to need some help to do that anyway, so maybe they're not splitting them up. But in the end, MJF is a heel, and he won in a very, very heelish way. And I think that's fine. Really no issue with the outcome because the match was so goddamn good. When you see something like that, does it really matter who wins? My God, that was great shit. Excellent effort by both, and that was a star-making match for both. I mean, both guys, we already know that they're over. MJF is one of the most phenomenal heels we currently have in the business, and Darby has one of those connections with the fans that certain wrestlers have. So they're both already super over. Now they're thrown out there on a big stage like this, and they've been coming through every time. I mean, Darby's wrestled Punk. He's been on big stages before, but, just another example of, just go out there and they tear it up, no nervousness, no nothing. They go out there like they're wrestling in an empty arena. So they look like two 20-year pros out there the way they were going, and neither one of them had been in the business for very long. So as a wrestling fan, I kind of respect that when you can wrestle on that level at that age. Shit wasn't like that back in the day. You know what I mean? Before I get into the next match, let me cruise over. Alex Bryant, say hi to you. Thank you for the $2. Bryant cheats to win and revives his heel character. Are we ready for that yet? I'm into that. I think Danielson is an excellent heel. He was a great heel in WWE with the eco-friendly title and stuff. I love that stuff, and he's very good. I think on the mic is a heel too, but I think we can almost hold off on that. You could do it right now. Hell, you could even put the title on Bryan Danielson. I'm still taking a while to get used to that. But I just feel like Danielson could be better served, maybe putting someone over first, keep wrestling as American Dragon Bryan Danielson for a little while longer, and then do the heel turn maybe next year, midway through the year or whatnot. Give him a couple of more heels to kind of feud with in the time being before they pick things back up. Or, you can just have him tread water until someone like MJF is the champion and Bryan can beat MJF for the title. But, is that the right call? We want to see MJF and CM Punk. There's other guys that could be in line too. So I wouldn't want to have to figure this shit out. That's for sure. I'm not sure which way is the right way to go. Danielson heel in the future? Absolutely. Danielson heel in the next couple of weeks? I don't know. Not ready yet. I think fans are still too happy to see him there to have that happen quite yet. So let's wait. MJF has wins over the other three pillars. That's right. So he's the main pillar. Joshua Aparicio, good to see you, man. Hello. Did anybody tell me who the other pillar was? Bryan was great as Planet Champion. He was fantastic. Loved it. Anyway, what was the next matchup? Oh, yeah, it was the tag team match. So the AEW tag team titles were on the line next. The Lucha Brothers against FTR. This was a great match. My only complaint with it is that I thought the finish was a little bit flat because the match was awesome. And then at the end, especially when they had a couple of really good near falls that I thought was going to be the end, looking back, I think one of them should be the end. Now, I think the point here was to give the give FTR kind of an excuse because they did the mask thing. They tried to Killer Bee this match, and the wrong guy got pinned, and it backfired on them. So that will now allow them to say, well, it wasn't fair, it shouldn't have counted, or whatever the fuck. So I understand what they were trying to achieve there, but they had so many great spots that led up to that. It almost felt sloppy or something at the end. I really don't know what the finish was about, but the match was amazing. I loved it. So, this was a match that was kind of, you got to watch the Lucha Brothers a lot, and I did a lot more watching and a lot less typing. But in terms of the match, typical awesome tag team shit that you'd expect from both teams. FTR winds up introducing one of the title belts first. They used the belt on Rey Fenix for one very, very close near fall that you thought might have been it. He kicks out. Dax Harwood winds up tributing Eddie Guerrero with the shimmy and the Three Amigos on Penta. Penta, though, blocks the third and hits Three Amigos of his own. So in this match alone, we had multiple Eddie Guerrero tributes, which was great. Rey Fenix heads to the top after that to hit a frog splash. And I think it was Dax, and he kicks out of that. So it's another near fall. In one of my favorite spots of the match, Luchas go for their package pile driver move, and Phoenix goes the top rope. And instead of kind of hitting the move, he uses them as a trampoline, bounces, and basically high crosses Dax for a near fall on the other side of the ring. So it was really interesting and a good looking spot and super fun. So FTR then busts out the green masks. Knox catches I think one of their foot on the ropes, when they're trying to get the pin, and he knocks that off. And that kind of discombobulates things a little bit. And the Luchas are able to get the pin on the wrong guy. So I think it was Cash who took the pin, but Dax was legal, I believe. JR somehow was able to keep track of this when I was not. I was kind of trying to type and watch at the same time. And JR, to his credit, I was proud of him. He actually seemed like he understood what was going on a little bit, because JR was a little bit of a mess tonight, but he did seem to understand there. But kind of the way the finish was, after all the great action and all the great near falls and everything we saw, that finish was like, it could have been, it could have been better. But in the end, Lucha Brothers retained. That's what I wanted to see happen. I am nowhere close to seeing them done as tag team champions. I love them, and was hoping they'd pick up the win here. They did, and we'll see what happens next. Before we get into Miro and Danielson, let me cruise over here. Knock out a couple of more supers that are rolling in. For those of you who are here, I would really appreciate a like. Get the likes up on this video. I would love you. And please subscribe if you have not yet already, because this is a great place to be, man. Max Pokebra 27, thank you for $5, man. Wish WWE coverage wasn't so negative, but Full Gear was great. Man, trust me, if you know this channel for any sort of duration of time, I bent over backwards to the point that I cracked my spine in half to try to give that company the benefit of the doubt every chance I could. I don't like haters. I don't like people who spew out negativity just for the sake of being negative. I have held out as long as I can, trying not to hold WWE accountable for the horrible fucking shit that they give us on a week-to-week basis, and I'm just at my wit's end. I am one of the most positive people in the YouTube community, I promise you. But man, sometimes you just can't handle how bad stuff is. So we don't shit on for the sake of shitting on. We don't spew negativity for the sake of likes or views or anything like that over here. We just try to be realistic, and we're certainly not biased. If WWE wants to decide to try to have good shows now, and they want to be more entertaining than they are now and be more entertaining than AEW, I am welcoming them to please do that. I have no alliance to either. Whichever one is entertaining me more, I will say they are entertaining me more. I am not on any side of this tribal war. I just want to make sure that's very clear in case there are any new listeners in here. When WWE gives us a great show, I will be singing their praises just as much as I would AEW. So it ain't like that. I know it's a crazy war going out there in the wrestling world, and if you do stumble across this channel, I want you guys to know that we are not a part of that stupid war, because we're our own people. We went to school. We can dress ourselves, speak English, shit like that. So we're normal over here. We don't do that. So I just want to make that clear. But thank you, Pokebra. MJ, Mr. J, 33352. Big fan of your work. Would love to meet you and talk wrestling. Bret Hart is my favorite wrestler of all time. Born in 83 of December. Well, you're kind of close to my age. Right on. Thanks for being here, Bret is the best. Brett's my favorite wrestler too, and grew up watching him. And his influences are all over this room. I got an autographed picture behind me. I got his picture up there. I got Winged Eagle belts hanging all over the fucking place. So Brett is the man. Divine Ricks is back. Thanks for $2 more. 4 pillars of AEW, Darby, MJF. Oh, Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy's a pillar. I forgot about Jungle Boy. Only Jungle Boy can be sporting a beard and still look 16 years old like he did tonight. I forgot about Jungle Boy. Yeah, I knew 3 of the pillars. That 4th one was stumping me. And thanks, Marcus, for 2 more from you. Shout out to the Baron appearing tonight. As soon as I saw Baron von Raschke's face, I immediately smelled my grandmother's basement. It was awesome. I was like, oh my God, he's there. And they even incorporated him into the match. He did the Iron Claw. It was fucking great. Marked out. Love that stuff. So anyway, let's continue on with the card here. Like I said, we've got to talk about Miro and Danielson next. This, of course, was the finals of the Eliminator Tournament. Miro was inserted last minute, of course, for the absent Jon Moxley. And I'm wondering, too, when I was kind of puttering around the house today, I had the pre-show on, or during the buy-in, the beginning parts, and they're going through all the video packages, and they did a lot of Daniel Bryan stuff on there where he's doing a lot of talking. And then at the very end, it's just one quick shot, quick cut to Miro, of him, some production stuff. And he just says, I will be the redeeming champion or something. He has one line. So it's like, man, they really inserted him at the last minute. I have a feeling they had all sorts of Moxley shit taped. And this was supposed to be Danielson and Moxley. So they kind of just spliced in Miro at the end. You could tell he was just thrown in the editing there. And he was really basically a replacement for Moxley. So I started rethinking my stuff. I'm like, man, that prediction I made yesterday of Danielson winning or Danielson losing might not be true after all. So match was okay. You got to remember, these are 2 guys that were recently in WWE in the past couple of years. I think they still worked a good style of match where it didn't remind you of either one of those guys. And that's a pretty incredible thing in terms of how WWE really presents their talent. Both of these guys were in the company in recent years, and watching this match, I wasn't associating either one of them with WWE. I was associating Miro with Miro and Danielson with Danielson, and I wasn't thinking about any of their history or previous matches or anything like that because they were pretty meaningless from what I remember in WWE. Danielson, taking out the bigger guy, works the legs, works the neck a little bit. Miro, not quite 100% yet, it seemed, which is good, although he was still displaying some incredible feats of strength. He deadlift German Bryan out of a knee bar or something and just tossed him halfway across the ring. It was fucking incredible. In the end, they're on the top rope together. Danielson hits Miro with a top rope DDT and basically just floats right over into a choke. And Miro is just unconscious. He's knocked out. So he doesn't tap. He's knocked out. Ref calls for the bell, and Danielson picks up the win, and he gets a title shot to face the winner of Page and Omega later on. And that really got me thinking. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the show here, my thought process was a new babyface Hangman should probably face a heel for his first defense. But now if he's going to be facing Danielson, yeah, it's a babyface match. But imagine if Page is able to beat Danielson clean, what that would mean for the career, the legacy, and the future of Page. And, how Danielson would be, would really be giving back in a great way. Isn't this so much better use of someone like Danielson, who's been wrestling for so long and now can, not only be at the top of the card, but can be used to get guys over at the same time? Isn't that so much better than just sticking him on SmackDown every week in meaningless segments where he's just on the mic and then somebody interrupts him in their impromptu match and they just week in and week out of this shit? This is a better use of him because he's now pumping some of his stuff back into the wrestling business that was given to him. So that's what, if I'm a veteran, that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? So when that match inevitably happens with Page and Danielson, in my mind, Page has got to beat him. I'd prefer it squeaky ass clean in the middle. It's not going to harm Danielson in any way. He's Bryan Danielson. He can lose. It's no big deal. Beat him. Whatever. So he's got one loss on his record. Big deal. He can easily work his way back up, and then by the time some heel is champion down the road, he can take them out. Who knows? Lots of room to move with Danielson in his AEW career. So we will see. After that, we get that Falls Count Anywhere match between the Elite against Christian and Jurassic Express. Interesting and kind of funny to see the heels come out in pink and have the baby faces wearing like ripped jeans and black cutoff t-shirts and shit. So it was kind of reversed here. It was a fun match, maybe not as fun as I was expecting it to be, although they did find themselves going all over the arena. So that was good. They went more around. I think they used the arena more to their advantage than the Inner Circle and Top Team did. So we get brawling everywhere, of course. Cole is the first one that I spot blood on. He's busted open. They do a lot of table spots here. We get Jungle Boy running Nick through a table while on the opposite side of the ring. Matt Jackson drops a big top rope elbow to Luchasaurus through the other table. Cutler's out there wearing just a delicious pink jumpsuit. He sprays Nick Jackson in the face by accident with the cold spray. We get Christian Cage in the crowd. He does a balcony dive onto the Bucks and Cutler. That looked pretty good. We get a Panama Sunrise to Jungle Boy on the stage from Adam Cole. We get a three-way BTE trigger to Luchasaurus on the stage with a really close near fall. That I thought was the end. There was no one around, and Jungle Boy just materializes out of nowhere, makes the save last minute. That was a great spot. Luchasaurus hits a shooting star press off the stage onto the floor, and then the finish sees Matt Jackson down on the stage in concerto position, and Jungle Boy, it's revenge time. Who earlier in the match, they had his mouth full of thumbtacks and super kicking his face to hell, and everything that's happened to him previously in this whole ordeal. It is payback time. He's wearing his jeans, and he's got his scruff. He's got a beard, and he looks like he's 16, like I said earlier. And he's got the chair. Matt's down, and boom, nails him with a concerto, and Jungle Boy gets the pin on Matt Jackson for the win. And it was great stuff. These guys did some awesome things out there, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't just quite as bonkers as I thought, but still a really fun match, and one that I got wrong. I thought that the heels would win this one. I thought with Kenny going down in the main event, certainly you'd want to keep the rest of the Elite strong in the undercard, but it was reversed. Babyfaces got the win, and I got no issue with that at all whatsoever. And I believe those are the only two matches I got wrong, I think. So, yeah, is what it is. After that, this was what I talked about earlier, kind of almost like a bathroom break match in a lot of ways. Cody and Pac taking on Andrade, Elidolo, and Malachi Black in that tag team encounter. I wasn't paying a ton of attention to this match. You could tell in the audience on TV that the crowd was a little bit on the burnt out side, and I had put on Twitter, and I was talking to a couple of other people about this during this match, that this match I felt like was going to suffer because on paper it's excellent. Pac and Malachi, getting those two guys mixing up, hell yes. But unfortunately, this match isn't going to get that type of an emotional investment when we've already seen some fabulous shit to open the show. So I think this match would have been better served just to be on Dynamite, like main event, a Dynamite one week, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff and make it fun and, you know, all that shit. But here in the middle of a show that's just loaded with a bunch of amazing stuff, I think it kind of took away from the match a little bit, and the fans didn't care so much, and that's a shame. It's not their fault. It's just the situation. So I didn't care too much about it. Pac hit a Black Arrow, I believe, on Andrade for the win. At the end, there was kind of a clunky interference where FTR showed up and attacked Cody and Pac, but I don't even know what the purpose of that was, and it was kind of weak. So that match I didn't love only because we had so much other stuff. But you stick that match on Dynamite instead, and it's a completely different match. So maybe these are little lessons AEW can learn from and say, okay, at Full Gear that time, we had, you know, kind of too much going on. Maybe this would have been a good spot to put another women's match, which, again, most fans would just consider the bathroom break or the breather match anyway, but at least it would have put another women's match on the show to get that bug out of the fans' ass and, you know, rightfully give the women another spot ahead of that TBS title, you know, being a champion being crowned in January. So I think they could have maybe not done that, but like I said earlier, hey, they gave us too much great shit. There's worse problems to have in wrestling, faux show. Joshua, good to see you back, man. Thank you for that. $2. Hey, Greg, Full Gear was awesome. I agree. Pokey Bros back with another $2. Rest in peace, Eddie and Brody, and get well soon to Moxley. I ditto that for sure. What did we have next? Oh, yeah, this one was good. This, I think, almost exceeded my expectations just a hair, or at least met my expectations, I should say. Britt Baker defending the AEW title against Ty Conte, and I loved this. This was good. I was so happy that Ty Conte was getting this opportunity. There was no way I was seeing her winning the title here tonight, but just the fact that she was getting this match, I thought if she was able to go out there and deliver a solid effort, that it's something that can really drive your stock up, and a lot of times losses can make stars just as much as wins can. So I was hoping she would just go out there and give Britt a hell of a run for her money, and she did. Baker didn't even put her down with the lockjaw or anything. It took everything Baker had to put Conte down, and they basically booked this match literally exactly the way I was hoping to. I mean, the way I laid out in the predictions. I'm like, Conte just needs to really have Baker on the ropes, nearly have her beat, but in the end, Baker's still Baker, and she's going to find a way to win, and she did, and she had all sorts of help because Rebel and Hayter, I believe, were out there as well. They were both out there. So Conte held her own the whole time, and that was great. Entrances for both were really fun. I enjoyed Ty Conte's with the flag, and she really kind of had the MMA kind of look going. Her hair looked great. She had some war paint kind of going on. She looked fantastic. Britt comes out, and she's got one of the guitar guys from Fozzy to play her song, kind of with the loudspeakers. That sounded good. I think my favorite, maybe not my all-time favorite, one of my favorites, if not my favorite, special AEW entrance was Lucha Brothers at All Out. I just loved that one. But Baker's was pretty cool too. So the match was really good, and there was a couple of spots in this match where they really came close to ending some lives here. Air raid crash on the apron all night long. This apron was taking souls, man. Man, the air raid crash looked really sick, and I legit thought one or both of them was hurt on that spot. Neither one was. Like I said, Rebel and Jamie Hayter were at ringside, both getting involved. Hayter at one point is able to, with the ref distracted, throw Ty Conte into the steel steps. Conte escapes a lockjaw after she gets back in the ring, and then all the heels are on the outside of the ring, and she goes up for a top rope Charlotte-style moonsault. Ty Conte moonsaulting from the top rope onto the floor. Wasn't the greatest, but you know what? It wasn't any worse than Charlotte's. I'm not a really big fan of Charlotte's because she just kind of does a funky looking backflip and kind of lands on her feet, and nobody really ever gets truly landed on. And Conti's was kind of the same way. So not worse than Charlotte's, but really not any better either. But you know what? Props to the girl for even giving that a shot. I do not have the balls to ever try something like that ever. I would kill myself jumping off that thing like that. So the fact that anybody attempts that stuff at all is pretty impressive. So everybody lived through that, thank God. Back in the ring, you get a DDT to Britt Baker for about as close as a near fall as you can get. You can't get any closer after that top rope moonsault followed by the DDT than Conte did to winning the title just there. Britt escapes with her life. She's not able to lock in the lockjaw. Instead, she winds up basically reversing a roll-up that Conte has her in. She reverses it, gets her shoulders down, and gets the pin, and narrowly escapes with her championship. And they gave me exactly what I was hoping out of that match because it's predictable. They're not going to take the belt off of Baker here, but, if you can build up, one of your women into a contender, in the meantime, that to me, that's a plus. So I think they booked it exactly the way it should have gone. I don't think maybe in a match like this, a lockjaw in the middle and a tap out was the right way to go. I think it was something like Britt did with the escape. That's good. That still makes Conte look like a badass, and I think people will just respect her for the effort. So good on her, good outing, and overall a solid women's match. So I was nervous that maybe it wouldn't be good, and then fans would start being fans. And I'm happy to say that I believe, in my personal opinion, that match delivered pretty solid. Not as good as Charlotte. She's the queen. Hey, I'm a Charlotte defender, Alex Bryant, but that moonsault looks like shit. Shit. Big ass shit. I am coming at you. Shit. Big, wet, floppity, sloppity shit. Her bent ass knees. Come on, man. That looks like crap. She does something good, I'll say she does something good. But that just particular move she does doesn't look good. And she never even hits it very good. She ain't no Kurt Angle, that's for sure. Kurt Angle had that beautiful floating moonsault where you hear a fucking Beatles song as he travels through the air. Charlotte looks like she's going through a dryer when she's fucking flipping in the air. There you go, Alex. I came at you. After that, it's Eddie and Kingston, or Eddie and Punk time. I'm ready to get into that. But before I do, Marcus, let me knock out your $5 super chat, and thank you for that, man. Kenny Omega singles matches in 2021. Ray Phoenix, Rich Swann, Moxley, Moose, Jungle Boy, Pac, Orange Cassidy, Danielson, Christian, Andrade, and Hangman. Interesting. I remember all those matches. Yeah, not bad. He had a fun run, and his matches were all fun. His matches were all good, and he held it. Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Thanks for the stat. All right, after that, we get the much anticipated, and I think most fans were looking forward to this match the most, maybe even more so than the main event. Eddie Kingston taking on CM Punk. This all happened and began after Eddie was choked out by Bryan Danielson. He interrupted Punk's interview. They jaw-jacked a little bit. They had the face-to-face promo on Rampage that ended in CM Punk's death. Eddie Kingston did a pretty good job in that, and that was fantastic. Now they've set up the Full Gear match. And like I said, I was hoping this would be the beginning of kind of a 3-match deal here between them, because you can't have a promo that good. You can't have, this little miniature feud that's bubbled up onto nothing to capture everybody's attention so well. Everybody's just been praising the hell out of it. But it only started like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then you're just going to have one match at the pay-per-view and be done. And no, the fans want more of this. So that's what I was hoping we were going to get. Punk makes his entrance. He's got some new gear, or at least for this match, he had some new gear. He's trying shit out. You got to respect him for that. This time he's wearing some like CM Punk-themed boxer shorts or Umbros, or basically just some short, almost maybe MMA-style trunks in this fight with Eddie Kingston. So a little bit different of a look. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I didn't hate it. I didn't really love his long trunks either, but then again, didn't hate him. And I think I feel the same way about these. But before the bell rings, Eddie, as they're kind of getting in each other's face, CM Punk is not backing down. Eddie hits that spinning backhand move of his and takes out CM Punk before the bell. Very heelish move. Very cool. They go on to begin the match. They brawl on the outside of the ring. It's just brawling, brawling, brawling. CM Punk gets busted open early. A true crimson mask all over his face. Just beat red. You didn't see blood trickling. It was just red. His whole face was red. Fun spot in the match where you immediately see it right when they go into the move, where CM Punk ducks, lifts up Eddie Kingston for that shitty belly-to-back thing that is usually the setup for the 5-knuckle shuffle. The fans recognized it right away. They started standing up going, holy shit. CM Punk throws his hands up in the air, and I'm like, please, Mr. CM Punk, give me my 5 knuckles. But he didn't do it. He just teased it. I liked the callback. A lot of people compared the promo they had on Rampage to the Punk Cena promo from 2011. A lot of similarities in this feud in terms of where they are in their careers and the heights that they've made it. Eddie Kingston really is the 2011 CM Punk in this situation, a guy that nobody would ever have thought would make it to the big time, and he's here now, just like CM Punk. Many thought he wasn't WWE material. Not only did he make it there, but he was having success. Eddie, I don't think, is going to have the AEW success that Punk had in WWE, but a lot of the callbacks to that is fun, especially with their history and the Ring of Honor stuff. All that was a blast to watch play out. Now they're in the ring, having their match together. The Eddie Guerrero tributes were present in this match as well. Punk hits the Three Amigos. Props to Kingston for being able to take the Three Amigos. That was pretty impressive. Punk winds up hitting a pretty nasty-looking GTS to Eddie Kingston, who kind of falls backwards, and his head hits the bottom rope. Kind of a scary-looking bump that he took, but he's okay. He comes to. Punk isn't able to capitalize on that because he is still spent, so Eddie is able just to kind of lay there, but Punk is able to recover, get Eddie in position for another one, hit him with a second GTS. This time he gets the pin, wins the match in a really hard-hitting fight. JR with the quote of the night, he says, "That was a goddamn fist fight." I don't know why that popped me, but just that line, I don't know what he was trying to say. That was a goddamn fist fight. Well, yes, JR, that's exactly what it was, and it was great. And Punk approaches Eddie after the match, extends his hand for a handshake. And Kingston walks away Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12 style and leaves, probably gets into a running car and speeds away. And that right there put the biggest smile on my face, because if Eddie shakes his hand, we're done. We're done. So I'm like, don't shake his hand. Don't shake his hand. Don't shake his hand. And when he walked away, I'm like, fuck yeah. Match number 2 coming up. And this one, I think Eddie Kingston is going to win. And then you do one more blow off with Punk going over. And, it's a nice nod to Eddie Kingston for him to get one victory in this program, to give him that in a way that can give him a victory, and he can say he's got a victory in over one of the most famous wrestlers in the world before he, officially retires. And in the end, it's not going to do anything to harm the status of CM Punk in any way, especially if they run it back in a blow off and Punk wins. I think that would be fun to see. So if I'm doing it, I'm gimmick matching the next one and then having some sort of stipulation in the next encounter between the two, and I'm giving Eddie the win, and then you do one more. So we'll see if that happens or not. But one thing's for sure, they got to do it again. When you don't shake a dude's hand, you're doing it again. You know what I mean? Stone Cold, good to see you, man. Thank you very much for that $5. Hello, all. Been super busy, but here for this. Hope Greg and the chat is doing well. I'm doing great. The chat seems to be doing great as well. Hey, we were treated to a nice, fun night of wrestling, so there are worse things to do. I have decided something too that we are going to do for Revolution. I got a couple of comments just randomly, like in the chat and on Twitter, that I saw a couple of people say, "Oh man, I got to work," or or money is tight right now. I can't really, get the pay-per-view or whatever. So I want to do some sort of a giveaway, and we'll figure out how to do it. But I'm going to buy the pay-per-view for somebody during Revolution. I think Revolution's the next one, right? Can't do this for WWE because they're on Peacock, but for AEW you can. So I think in February for Revolution, we'll do some sort of a drawing where somebody will win and you'll get the pay-per-view on me. Please, let's let the people, maybe who, is easier for them to afford, maybe don't enter. Let's try to help somebody out here and do some sort of a nice giveaway. I think that would be fun and give somebody a treat, that they might not otherwise be able to see. So we're going to start doing that, I think, for AEW shows, because there's only 4 of them. So I think I want to try to incorporate that every AEW pay-per-view. So we're going to give one away if we could. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I can buy it online for somebody. No big deal. And we'll work it out. So stay tuned for that for upcoming AEW pay-per-views. After Eddie and after Punk was the Minnesota Street Fight 10-man tag between the Inner Circle and America's Top Team. They stayed in the ring way more than I thought they were. I was kind of thinking this was going to be more along the lines of what we saw from the Elite and Luchas and Christian, where they'd kind of be all over the place. They were a little bit. They did venture out, but not too much. It was more props. Loved the print symbol that Jericho, of course, Jericho of all people, is going to pull that out and use that as a weapon. We had a toaster in the ring. A lot of shit like that. Dan Lambert was out there wearing a Brian Zane-like tracksuit. I think Brian should maybe cease and desist that obnoxious motherfucker. And I was wondering if he had like a steel plate. Steel plates are always great, So I'm like, Lambert is awfully dressed up. What's he packing under there? He's probably got something, hiding under that ridiculous outfit. So he's out there trying to avoid getting his ass kicked any way he can. He's avoiding the action for the most part. Proud and Powerful looks awesome. Ortiz, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but he looked like Vampiro. I thought it was Vampiro for a second. I was waiting for JR to say Vampiro. I'm kidding. That's a bad joke. But I don't know if that was on purpose or if he was maybe going for more of a Kiss look. I don't know. But he looked a lot like Vampiro, and I thought it looked awesome. We had crazy spots in this, and a lot of it was scary, involving some of the MMA guys who, when you watch them, some of their shit just does not look very good. The superplex to Dos Santos was pretty cool because I think Santana and Ortiz really protected him well, but it did take him a little bit too long, I think, to set that move up on the top rope before hitting him with it. They had one of those enormously oversized, obnoxious ladders at ringside as well, and Sammy Guevara decides to climb up to the top of that thing, and he hit a beyond Jeff Hardy-like swanton bomb from the top of that thing. He just floated down. It seemed like it took forever and crashed, I believe, onto Scorpio Sky, who was set up on the tables. And I don't know if they replayed it or not. I was looking for it. I really wanted a wide shot of that, and they might have replayed it. I just didn't personally see it. But the one shot I saw, I was like, man, how does that compare to like the WrestleMania 16 Hardy Swanton or any big Swanton that Hardy has done off a ladder that size? How does it compare to Sammy's? I thought Sammy's might have even looked a little bit smoother in a lot of ways, just the way he came down and hit and everything. So I might want to look at that bump again, but that was a fun looking spot. So like I said earlier, Baron von Raschke was at ringside for this. They introduced him before this match. I didn't know he was out there, of course. He's a Minnesota fucking legend, man, back in the AWA days. And that guy used to scare the shit out of 5-year-old Greg. And as soon as I saw his face, I was instantly transported to and I could smell my grandmother's basement. It was awesome. So I marked out just for seeing his face, because I was always a big, just AWA mark because I grew up with it and stuff. So seeing his face was really fun. Little did I know they were going to incorporate him into the match a little bit. So later on, Ethan Page is puttering around over there, and he winds up eating the iron claw. Raschke puts the claw on him, and he sells it like $1 million. It's fucking great. All of this happens, and all the America's Top Team guys are being neutralized in various spots around the ring, and that leaves Dan Lambert in the ring all by himself, and he's looking around, and there's nobody there. And then Chris Jericho slithers in. You knew this was coming. One-on-one, Lambert and Jericho. We get some chops to Dan, punch to his face. He goes down. And I was really hoping here, like we said in the predictions, that Lambert was here obviously to take the pin. But not only did I want him to take the pin, I wanted to see some color. I wanted to see them rip him open and just see him bleed in front of the fans. He's got so much heat. I think the fans would love that if Jericho was like pounding his head and you got blood streaming down his face, Austin at Mania 13 style. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, the crowd will piss themselves. They'll be so excited if that happens. But instead, we basically get the opposite of that. This was really bad, and it was one of the dark spots on the show. Everybody, is going to botch. Botches don't happen any more in AEW than they do in any promotion in wrestling ever in history. You're going to watch matches. You're going to cringe a couple of times because people fuck shit up. We do that on a weekly basis in WWE. We do that on a weekly, but you sure as hell do that on a weekly basis in the independents. And you do that in AEW as well. And Jericho, and this is basically more the fault of the inexperience of the MMA fighters that they have in this match, because basically Lambert is down. The spot is supposed to be Jericho going for the lion salt, but when he hits the ropes, Santos is there to nail Jericho, but Santos isn't there, not even close. So Jericho is running towards the ropes for the lion salt, realizes that Junior's nowhere around, and yells out, "Junior!" as loud as he can, 10 times louder than any spot John Cena has ever called in the ring. And not only does he yell out his name for the entire 15,000 fans in there to hear, he lands on the ropes, and instead of springing backwards to hit the lion salt, he stops. I swear 3 seconds went by with him standing on the ropes before Junior comes up and pops him, and then he goes down. And I was like, if that's the finish, no shit, the Owen Hart, Steve Austin SummerSlam 97 finish was better than that. That's how bad it would have been. But luckily, Jericho is able, I believe, to kick out, and that does not end the match. We get a staple gun introduced into the match, and I think Jericho staples Dan Lambert's nuts, and the finish basically makes up for the horrific botch, one of the worst botches I've ever seen in my life, I think. It gets made up for, number one, by the Iron Claw from Baron von Raschke earlier, and then Jericho going to the top rope and hitting Dan Lambert with a frog splash, the signature move of one of his dear friends, hits Dan Lambert with that for the win and makes up for everything. But goddamn, can we maybe just keep MMA fighters out of the ring as much as possible, unless they're a little bit more trained or a little bit more experienced, or maybe you don't have spots that are overly complex, where somebody's got to be there on cue, or you call an audible. I think also some of the blame could be put on Jericho for that, because if he realized that Junior was so out of position, I would have just done something else. I would have just scrapped the whole spot. He's a veteran. He's got the, he's got the authority to do that. Jericho, if he feels something's not going to work and you got to change it, he needs to be the one to make that decision. He's the 30-year veteran out there, working with guys that, have maybe been in the ring for 3.5 hours. So he's got to be able to manage this better, I think. And I think he should have audibled that instead of standing on the ropes waiting for Junior to hit him. That's my only, real critique of the match. But you know what? I'll let that go. This match was about Eddie. Frog splash for the win. Jericho looked legit emotional about it. That was cool. And they made up for it, but just barely. Man, that was not the prettiest match I've ever seen. That's for sure. Before we get to the main event, Tony Schiavone heads to the stage to announce basically a new signee. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And Tony immediately says this man's won multiple championships in multiple promotions. And I'm like, well, shit. I mean, we don't have time to think about it, but it can't be that many names. Somebody that they're introducing right before the main event. This can't be a nobody. This has to be somebody that everybody in that arena is going to recognize. And it turns out to be Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal. Cool. Awesome. Brings out Jay Lethal, who immediately gets on the mic and challenges Sammy Guevara this Wednesday to a TNT title shot, and Sammy comes out and says yes. So that's awesome. Lethal, Guevara for the title Wednesday. They just keep on rolling, man. That's going to be a fun-ass match, and it's going to be fun to see what Lethal does in AEW, and I'm ready to hear some ooh yeah and all that stuff. So good to see him there. He'll be fun, and lots of good matches to be had with Jay Lethal as well. Let me cruise over here before we get into that main event. Lambert looks like Gordon Ramsay's grandpa. He kind of does. Yeah, Lambert, he was ready for the U.S. Open. I thought he was ready for some 1986 aerobics. He was about to get his aerobics on, his aerobicizing or something. It was hilarious. But that's a heel move, though. Heels have to dress obnoxious. You don't have to look any further than Jim Cornette to see that in action. Oh, Monique, you thought CM Punk looked cute in those shorts? Okay, that's good to know. A woman's perspective on that. I wasn't sure. I never know, like, on the first time I see somebody change up their gear, because I said this the other day, I'm a creature of habit. Sometimes I just kind of am used to what I'm used to. So when it changes on me, I'm like, I'm not sure. But I don't know, between the long trunks and CM Punk's gear that he wore tonight, between those two, which one I like better. Maybe tonight. It was good to see Punk in a gritty match. He bladed tonight. Like, I wonder if that, like, for a wrestler, I wonder if that feels good. Like if you to blade after 8 years off from the business. When was the last time Punk did a blade job? It's probably been a long time. It's probably the wrestling equivalent of cracking your knuckles. Just kind of get back into that shape and get used to that, doing that type of stuff and everything. I think he's still in the process of getting those legs back and having a match like this, more of just an all-out fight, fist fight brawl, and a match that came through, because Eddie Kingston, he ain't Eddie Guerrero. So to pull any sort of compelling match out of him is highly commendable. So I thought it was good. Both guys just did awesome. So I loved it. Kyle, thank you for those Eddie words. Let's get into the main event. That's all we've got left here now. Kenny Omega defending the AEW title against Hangman Page. We talked a lot about this all week long. We talked about this yesterday, and I was basically saying, Hangman, 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 all the way. Hangman, you're crazy if it's not Hangman. This was something that was actually debated throughout the week. I am not the type of person to say you're stupid for wanting Hangman to lose. Whatever you'd prefer to see happen, you have the right to want happen. But I was surprised that a lot of people felt like it was the better story if Hangman lost. I'm like, sometimes the writing's on the wall. Sometimes it's crystal fucking clear what you should do. And I made the comparison back in 1983 to Vern Gagne and AWA, who had the opportunity to crown Hogan and put the belt on him after he had been chasing Bockwinkel for God knows how long, and they didn't do it. It was a huge disappointment. Bada bing, bada boom. Hogan's disgruntled. He hops to WWE, and Vince makes Hulkamania the biggest thing in the world, and WWE is who they are today, largely in part to that very decision. And I think when you have the opportunity to make a star, especially in a company that some fans like to claim doesn't have stars of their own, which is horseshit. They have a ton of them, and they are making one here in this really kind of long, fun, 2-year-long story or issue or history between Hangman and Omega, and you build it up and you build it up for this payoff, and you draw back to Hangman's previous opportunities. Don't forget he was in the inaugural AEW title match against Jericho. He could have been the first ever champion, but he had to get back on the horse, no pun intended, and go through a lot of peaks and valleys in his career and a lot of alliances and a lot of broken alliances, to kind of find himself, self-confidence issues that he went through, in order to build himself up to this moment. You don't not do it. You don't set yourself up ever for a situation where you're going to piss off a lot of fans. That's what WWE does. They like to do it. Tony Khan, I think, is kind of the opposite of Vince in a lot of ways in terms of I don't think he would be one to make that decision. I think in AEW's future, you're bound to see some swerves and some shit that's going to shock us, but sometimes when the right decision needs to be made. What would have happened at WrestleMania 14? If Shawn Michaels beat Steve Austin, you would be like, what the what? You ruined it now. WWE's done this a bunch of times before. They've done it with Daniel Bryan. They've done it with CM Punk. They've done it with lots of guys to where, kind of the rugs pulled out from under them, or they take too long to pull the trigger and then, they wind up suffering for it and talent is sacrificed and shit like that. So with Hangman Page for AEW's future, for their history, I compare him to like a Randy Orton type of wrestler on their roster. I think he should be the Randy Orton of AEW, not the Cena, but the Orton, not the Hogan or anybody like that, but the Orton, a guy there that is going to have a great legacy. He's going to win multiple championships. In the tag team division, he'll probably win some TNT titles and shit. He'll go heel, he'll go babyface. He'll have a lot of fun in his career, and I think this all starts it, and he can really hit the ground running hard here if he does wind up defending against Danielson. But before we even get into that, we got to talk about the match itself. We did get some pretty cool-looking entrances here. We knew Hangman was going to be doing some sort of a horse thing because there were some pictures of him filming this shit on the horse walking down the street, so they didn't bring the horse into the arena, I don't believe. Did they? Did he walk that into the stage? I don't think he did. Shit, I forgot. But he's in the street, comes out, makes his entrance. Kenny comes out next. He's probably tributing some video game guy that I have no idea who it is, but I thought his outfit looked very cool, very shiny. He was dressed like this was a WrestleMania type of level main event, which I appreciated. I kind of sat back, got ready for the stream here. It didn't write down spot for spot here about the match, but I did kind of, once it was about halfway through, I started paying a lot more attention. Scary part in this match that made me hold my breath a little bit, because we have seen this before in recent history, mostly over on the WWE side of things, where somebody has been crowned or wins a title and they get injured in the same night. This happened to, Cross, I think, and then Finn Balor, of course, had the infamous match at SummerSlam a few years ago. So Hangman hits this top rope moonsault onto Kenny, and as he lands, not only does it look like he might have tweaked his knee a bit, but he falls backwards and hits the back of his head on the barricade, which are metal barricades just with one sheet of something over top of it. So I was like, oh God, please no knee tear, please no concussion, please let Page get through this match healthy and be able to actually have a run. The man who he's going to be facing next also suffered something similar when Daniel Bryan won the titles at WrestleMania 30, and within just a few weeks he had to forfeit the titles and get surgery and all that stuff. So I was biting my tongue a little bit after that spot, but Page was up right away. He seemed to be fine, and I don't even know how either one of these guys survived this match, because another crazy spot that apparently actually has a move. Hangman has got Kenny on the top rope, or maybe he's on the... No, I think he's on the top rope. Yeah, he's on the top rope, and he's got Kenny in fall-away slam position. So he basically hits him with a top rope fall-away slam, but he rotates all the way through it and makes it like a moonsault, too, when he lands on top of him for a near fall. And Excalibur had called this an Avalanche Blockbuster. I can't believe moves like this have names and are done routinely enough to where they're given names. I don't even think I've ever seen that before. Top rope, fall away, slam, moonsault combo thing apparently is called Avalanche Blockbuster. I feel like an old man. Oh, the gadgets and gizmos here. I can't keep track of it. But these names for these moves, I don't know how y'all keep track of this shit. And how does Excalibur know this? So anyway, that was an amazing move and really scary. Both guys landed well, though, and didn't look like either guy got hurt. Got a ref pump here. Kenny pulls the referee in the way of the buckshot lariat, so the ref goes down. We get a dead eye to Omega, and nobody there to count the fall because the ref's down. But Aubrey comes sprinting down to the ring. She slides in there 1-2, very close near fall, and Paige almost wins the title right there. Really cool spot here that reminded me of Bret Hart's victory over Ric Flair in 1992 when he won the title, where Bret kind of pulled the straps down. Paige had a little bit of that moment here where Kenny has just kind of got him down. Paige is kind of hunched over. I don't know. He's either kicking him in the face. I think he's kicking him in the face. And Paige just kind of hulks up and just gets right in his face and, points. He's got blood by this point. Paige is bleeding a little bit. And he seems almost like briefly impervious to pain a bit. And Kenny slightly shits his pants. So despite all of the kicks to the face, he hops right up and he just clotheslines the hell out of Kenny Omega, who spins completely inside out. That looked awesome. That's when the Young Bucks come down to the ring. So I'm like, okay. We knew we were going to see them, and we knew the Elite was going to get involved. And I was thinking that Hangman would just be able to fend off all of this adversity. But instead, the Bucks stay largely out of it for the most part. We get a V-trigger buckshot counter, so that looked great. Hangman goes for the buckshot, and Kenny just lands a V-trigger right to his face. Almost felt like it knocked my teeth out. Goes for the one-winged angel. Hangman escapes, picks up Kenny for his own one-winged angel, and nails him with it. And I knew that was going to be a near fall, but man, you thought for a second. I'm like, no way. I know Paige is going to win, but he's not going to win with this move. And he put Kenny down for a 2.5 count, very close near fall there. Then, as Kenny is trying to recover in the middle of the ring, Hangman hits Kenny in the back with a buckshot lariat, with the Bucks watching. Paige sees him. He sees that they could interfere and stop him if they wanted to, but they allow him to hit the first one on Kenny. He's now on the opposite side of the ring where Matt Jackson is standing, and Matt kind of looks at him and just kind of gives him a nod, and that's when Paige hits the second buckshot onto Kenny, pins him 1, 2, 3. Hangman Page is your new AEW champion. Just a little stare down with the Bucks. They leave. Hangman is able to celebrate in the ring by himself. Fans are going nuts. He goes to the ropes. He celebrates. He salutes us. The Dark Order eventually come out, and they give him the big group hug, which was just incredible to see. Looked like the fans were genuinely happy for the guy. I'm happy for the guy. I mean, we have another world championship now, a major, national wrestling company here. So there are more stars and more legacies to be made. And given where this guy's already worked and the track record he has in Ring of Honor in Japan and everywhere that he's been, and now his storyline, his brief storyline in the 2 years AEW's been around, this was a nice cherry on top. This was icing on the cake for Hangman. And I think it's great for AEW that they now have a guy like this that they have crowned, and he's going to be a major player for years to come. They've got one of their own. They have made themselves a star here, and he just won the title. He hasn't even defended it yet. So now you put him in the ring, and you start giving him wins over guys like Bryan Danielson. That's going to be a lot for Hangman. And when he does pass that belt to a heel, who I'm hoping is going to be MJF, it's going to be great. He could be. Nobody's ever going to replace Steve Austin or Stone Cold, but with this cowboy shit and the beer drinking and the way the fans like him and the swearing and stuff, it might be the closest we ever get. So let him get over. Let the fans keep loving him. I hope he has a nice, healthy, long run, and I hope it's the first of what will be more world title runs for Hangman Page. I am curious, way in the future, I think we're way, way off from this happening, but who do you guys think will be the first 2-time AEW champion? I'm kind of curious who that might be. I think we could be 5 years away from that even happening. But it could happen in as early as 2 or 1. So what do y'all think? I don't know. Alex, I don't know. I don't think I want to know. Don't really need to know. If Hangman wants to share that information with us, he's welcome to, but I'm not going to go searching for it. So, and I don't even think I'm going to think about it. It's not really that important to me. He'll be a Hall of Famer someday. That he will be. That he will be. Super fluffy. I don't know why I get the Jericho LOL, but I hope you're talking about that magnificent botch in that 10-man war. I addressed it earlier. I still can't believe it. Yikes. Do you think they will still continue the drunken cowboy gimmick? I think so. I think Page is Page. I mean, everybody knows who he is now, and I think he can still evolve from here too. Now that he's champion, it just means more TV time, more stuff to do. And it should be fun. I mean, they're going to kick things off, assumingly here, with kind of a babyface match of respect with Danielson. So that's not going to make. I don't think the promo's that intense or hate driven or anything like that. It probably should be an ass smooching contest between the two with a little bit of posturing. Danielson reminding Hangman who he is. You know who I am? I could easily beat you. I've beaten better men than you type of thing. And Page is like, you spent 2 more years, wrestling in the circus. This is real pro wrestling. Who knows? They can have a little bit of that back and forth. In the end, though, I think it's going to be mostly all about the love. Hopefully a good competitive match with a clean winner. That's all I really want to see. If that match is going to happen, I think you get more value out of it if you just beat Danielson. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to hurt him. He's not buried. It ain't going to do shit. He's still going to be Danielson, and he'll still hold that very title that Page is holding right now some point in the future. But if it's Page's moment and it's Page's time, let's let him have that time and give him some quality wins in order to build him as a credible champion. It's kind of how it works, if I'm not mistaken. I've only been watching for 40 years, so I'm not that experienced. But from what I know, that tends to work. Michael, I don't know if Omega's taking time off or not. I could see him doing that, though. If this was WWE, we would get an immediate rematch, either at the next pay-per-view or on Raw on Monday, and then Kenny would take his time off. With AEW, they might do it differently. I think there's enough questions now where he doesn't have to be back on TV until he comes back if he doesn't want to. Because with what went down with the Bucks and everything, him leaving is just going to have the fans questioning what it's going to be like when he comes back. Almost like when Shawn left after WrestleMania 14. A lot of that was real life too. But when he left after WrestleMania 14, you never really knew what the relationship was between Shawn and the rest of DX. Because DX was by his side all the way up until he stormed out of the hotel. But then the next night on Raw, Triple H threw a little bit of shade. And you didn't really know. So I kind of think it could be the same way with Kenny. If he is going to take time off, we don't need to see him again. He can just take time off now. But if they want to tie something up before he does that, or have the Bucks attack him, or I don't know what the fuck, or he maybe demands answers from them as to why they didn't help him or whatever, they could do that first. I don't know. But I think in the immediate future, it's going to be Danielson and Page, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Transferring heat, I saw that. I think it was just more emotion. I kind of liked how because I think it was Alex Reynolds who was trying to pass the beer to Page. He's like, nah, man, brothers don't pass beer. Brothers got a hug. And he swatted it away. Big group hug. How it touched my heart. I loved it. I thought it was pretty good. Really wish Moxley the best whenever he comes back. I don't know. JR, it was I don't know if it was really the right call. In Excalibur, I think kind of cut him off pretty quickly. I almost thought I heard JR, amongst many other kind of crazy things he said tonight, he kind of speculated on Moxley's return. I think he said something like, do you know when Moxley's returning? And Excalibur's like, join us this Wednesday on pay-per-view or whatever, on Dynamite or whatever, just trying to change the subject as quick as he could. Like, don't speculate on that, JR. Don't put any pressure on Moxley. Moxley will come back when he's back. I just don't think it's something they'd want to openly speculate on air about, because we don't know. But when he does come back, whenever that is, next week, next month, next year, where he's going to be should be fun either way, because he could be stuck with or put in that Eddie and Punk stuff if that is still going on when Moxley comes back. A little Moxley and Punk crossover or something. Eddie going full-blown heel perhaps. Moxley maybe comes back as a heel with him. I don't know, but then again, based on what's been going on with Moxley, I think the fans are going to want to welcome him back warmly when he comes back, and show him support. So I think he's going to have to come back as a babyface first. And then, they might abort the whole idea of maybe going heel with him, because maybe heel was the plan prior to what happened in his personal life. That plan could change now when he comes back. You never know. So we will find out. Oh, yeah, that would be funny, Sonny Man, if Mike Tyson randomly came out and knocked out Kenny Omega right after the match. I would love it. Oh, main event next year in 2022 of WrestleMania. I don't know. It's going to be what? Dallas, right? I don't know. Roman against somebody. Roman, I think, is going to hold the title until then. I kind of would think you'd take it off of him at WrestleMania, but shit, you might not. I honestly don't know what their plan is going to be. He'll be wrestling Big E. He'll probably have a couple of matches with McIntyre, and then you either do the winner of the Rumble against him or, something like that. At this point, based on what they're doing, Brock, but they got Brock showing up next month already in SmackDown. So here in LA, so they got a long way to go until WrestleMania. Brock is going to have to get himself unsuspended, then enter the Rumble and win it or something like that. So I would think Brock, but then again, that feels kind of predictable, with Brock and Roman again at WrestleMania. And then what? You put Brock over? Okay. Is that something Brock needs? He ended the streak. He used to own Roman Reigns back in the day. I understand you got to pay the situation off. Brock's a babyface now, and Roman fucked him over. So Brock should come back and beat him and everything. But if you're going to have a guy holding the title for nearly 2 years, is Brock the guy to take the belt off of him? Lots of ways to look at it, Xavier Woods for Rumble winner. I'll tell you what, they better pay the poor man for all the work he puts in for up, up, down, down, and that whole mess. When I read that story, I'm like, my God, does this company ever not come off like just raging, psychotic douchebags? Jesus, man. Making little to no money, they said, for all that work he puts in to that channel. Meaning I probably make more off my YouTube channel than Xavier Woods does off his. Where's the justice, Kenny Omega versus Roman at Mania. That's a good one. Roman versus Brock at Mania, and they do a DQ finish. I don't know. There has been one disqualification finish in WrestleMania main event history with Sid and Hogan. Still blows my mind that a disqualification finish actually did main event a Mania, but it has. Yeah, any crossovers, Brock coming to AEW, wiping people out, that would be good. But in terms of AEW, like we said, I think they hit a home run tonight. I thought it was a really solid show. Like I said, if anything, it was just maybe booked a little too hard. Like maybe they tried to cram too much great shit in, and a couple of matches suffered for it, like the Cody Pack and Andrade Malachi match. I think was one they could have just eliminated altogether or maybe replaced with a women's match. That horrific botch in the Inner Circle America's Top Team match is going to be tough to watch when all of the douchebags throw it all over Twitter. That wasn't pretty, but overall, still got to give this pay-per-view an A. Still fantastic. And maybe next time for Revolution, shave off a match here, or give us a little bit more of a buffer. But one thing that I think as fans we should be happy about is that AEW, number one, does not drown us with pay-per-views with 33 of them per year. We only get 4, and the 4 we get are super great quality. It kind of reminds you of the way it used to be back in the good old days before WCW came along and competed with WWE, and they started going 12 and 12. Back in the day, it was just Rumble, and actually back in the day, it was just Mania and Survivor Series, and then SummerSlam came along, then Rumble came along, or vice versa, and you really only had 4. Then they threw in the King of the Ring to kind of make a 5th, but really there's always only been 4. And I like that AEW, this might be what they're doing. There may be plans to increase the amount of pay-per-views they do per year maybe in the future, but in the meantime, they're establishing their Big 4, their Mania, their SummerSlam. What would you guys consider them to be? All Out would be Mania, maybe Double or Nothing would be SummerSlam, Full Gear would be Survivor Series, and Revolution would be the Rumble. Do you agree with that comparison? Would you agree with that analogy? Or would you switch it up at all? But I kind of feel like if they do increase pay-per-views in the future, hopefully these 4 will always be these 4. And they'll be these months with these names every year. Like, as a fan, that's what I would prefer, just a little bit of consistency. And in the meantime, keep running those special dynamites, those fighter fests, and all that other shit they've done. Do some of those sprinkled in, and in the future, I don't think AEW should ever, ever, ever in a zillion fucking years ever go to 12 pay-per-views. But I think you could go to 5, and maybe you could debate if 6 would not be too much or not. I think 5 would be perfect. Sticking one more in there somewhere. But they're evenly spaced. It works, and I like the format so far and don't really want it changed. So, exactly. And transferring it waters it down if you add too many. So I think so far they're, hopefully they're not having any urges. And if they are, they're resisting those urges, to add pay-per-views, because pay-per-views will add revenue, and that will add money. And so far it doesn't seem like making the money is the number one goal. That'll probably come in later years once they're established and they're rolling and they know they got a good thing going. Then maybe they can start worrying about more of their bottom line. But in the meantime, they're probably going to have to lose a little bit of money for a while to wind up making that money down the road. So hopefully they will continue to spare no expense and all that stuff, and not go too crazy with their shows, and not overbook stuff. So. Yeah, I like that Woods is the King of the Ring. I'm happy for him. I like Xavier Woods. It felt great just to take a week off from WWE this week. I was not up on Monday night to review Raw. I just couldn't take it. And then last night was SmackDown. I'm like, well, I'm not up today for the podcast because we have the pay-per-view. So if I don't have to review SmackDown, why am I going to watch it? So I didn't watch it. I saw Roman, I think, beat Xavier Woods, put the crown on or something. That's all I know. So it kind of felt nice just to take that night off. Incidentally, tomorrow, if you guys want to hang out tomorrow night, it's going to be a fun one. We're going to watch Survivor Series 1996 right here on YouTube. I should have the link in the description right below you. Nope, it's not, but it's over on my channel right now. We're going to be up here tomorrow night because it's the 25th anniversary of Survivor Series in 96. Not the exact day, just a couple days away or apart from that. But it's also the 25th anniversary of the debut of The Rock. This was a fun show. I got fond memories of it. It was in Madison Square Garden. Had that great Bret Hart-Steve Austin match. The Rock's debut, of course. And the awesome main event where Sid took the title from Shawn when the MSG crowd completely shit on Shawn and turned on him. And really sided hard with Sid. Sid won the belt. I was shocked. I did not think Sid would win the belt. And tomorrow night, we will watch that together, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific. So we will be going head-to-head with whatever the Sunday night NFL game is tomorrow night. So if you don't give a shit about that game, come over and hang out with us and watch Survivor Series 1996. And then after that, I'll be back on Wednesday for a Dynamite watch-along. No Raw review this week. I'm going to take the majority of Monday nights off between now and the end of the year. I will be up live the night after Survivor Series because we could see some cool shit happen there. And if WWE between now and the end of the year books a title match, or if we're smelling something big happen or smelling a title change, or if WWE gets desperate because their ratings have not been wonderful in the past couple of weeks and they stack up some show in order to get people to watch, we might be up to watch it then. Otherwise, I'm going to take a 2-month mental health break from Raw and cool it a little bit and just make better use of my time on Mondays and do other things on the channel instead. Also next week for sure, I've got a target date of Thursday, might even be up a date earlier, but I think Thursday is going to be the day. Fun podcast on transitional champions. We'll talk Sergeant Slaughter. We'll talk Mick Foley. We'll talk The Miz. We'll talk about Bret Hart in 1995. Lots of different transitional world champions, what it meant to their career, the circumstances, and, just kind of reminisce a little bit about those times. So that's what's coming up on the channel. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. I'm hungry. I want to eat some food and reflect on a super duper fun night of wrestling. I want to thank everybody again for being with me here tonight. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the super chats and support. And thank you for liking the video on your way out the door. Please hook me up. I will catch you guys tomorrow night for the Survivor Series watch along. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Talk to you soon. Peace.